Thank you for tuning in to Cripple Talks Comics. I am the Cripple. This is where we get together and discuss comic books, storylines, characters, and all sorts of other things with my co-host Aladrius and our master of time and space, Zipside. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to Cripple Talks Comics. I'm the Cripple, here with my co-host Aladrius. Say hello.
Hello.
And this is broadcast directly from the center of the multiverse.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I checked. Do you want me to show you the map? I literally have the map of the multiverse in front of me.
I'm so good. I'm so good right now.
All right. Well, as our opening earlier stated, we're here to talk about comic books and comic book related stuff. This episode is a special episode for two reasons. First of all, it's our flagship #1 episode. And second of all, we're going to be doing some things a little differently than we will normally. We will be discussing the special issue Love is Love, released by DC, as a tribute to the tragedy at the Orlando nightclub earlier this year. So, Aladrius, what did you think about it?
Well, unlike all the other comic books, I actually had to put it down multiple times. It was that tear-jerking. It was really, really tugging on my heartstrings. I think it was apt in describing the outrage that we all had when coming out of the incident. I'm a little disappointed in other commentators when it comes to comics because they don't really bring it up. I guess because it has no kind of effect upon the center of the multiverse when we talk about comic books, New 52 and all that.
Yeah, I can definitely see your frustration. I need to look up the publication date, but it's been a bit since it's been out as far as I can tell. And yeah, I agree with you. I haven't seen much, although if any of our listeners have gotten some coverage from any of the fellow podcasters or YouTubers or anything, please send that to us. Our email will be mentioned here at the end of the episode. I would love to see it, but I agree with Aladrius. Even as a straight man viewing this, I was very surprised that not more coverage was done because I really didn't know when this issue was announced. When this issue was announced, what it would exactly entail, and it was surprising in a positive way.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like how do you do something? How do you turn a tragedy into something that people can connect with, especially when it happens to a demographic that's not part of your own? I mean, as you said, as a straight man viewing the comic, you were surprised at how well it was done. As a gay man viewing the comic, I was extremely happy with the way that they portrayed the different characters, with the way that Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman didn't rush in and somehow magically save the day, that this was something we all had to deal with. Because despite the fact that we have all these characters in comic books, the one thing you don't hear about is the stupidity of humans, and the fact that it's still very much a real part of our lives.
I would definitely have to agree with you. It's one of the things that's always been tough for a medium like comic books when all of these tragedies happen. This shooting, 9/11, even going far back as World War II, it's hard to know how to deal with it in this medium, because in this medium the heroes save the day. The tragedy doesn't happen, and we don't have that in this reality. So how do you take something so horrific and transplant it into a reality where that it most likely wouldn't have happened in?
Although, now that we have this out there and we have people talking about it, do you think that we're going to have more diversity in comic books because of it?
I would like to say so, and I'll go ahead and admit to our fans right now that I am more of a DC fan, but I don't dislike Marvel. And both companies are showing what signs of what looks to be progress and inclusivity in a medium that up until recently really didn't have much. And as saying something as a disabled American, that's saying something, because what would you say, up until 10 years ago really was when it kind of started?
Well, I have to even give Marvel shit, Marvel shit, because after, for the last 10 years or so, even further back, anything that had anything gay related in it, like a superhero, men holding hands, women kissing, it was marked with a mature rating label. They didn't actually have anyone can read this. It was, don't let your kids read unless they're over 18 because this has mature content. The only mature content being kissing.
The same thing that was included in a teen issue.
Two guys going on a date. Like, it was honestly not that severe. I've seen a whole lot worse come from, let's say, Superman and Lois Lane.
Right.
Wolverine. And everything he's done.
Well, ain't that the truth? Heck, I was just going over House of M for a future episode, and man, him and Mystique. I mean that was almost literally a whole scene of them copulating. Almost, it was something. And I don't believe House of M was rated mature. The
main focus of this podcast, or this episode of the podcast, with Love is Love. And looking for different stories that really touched us in that comic. I can't really pick one or two. I have to say that all in all, it really, almost everything they did got me. Right. I mean, there were a few that I was like, okay, should be, it's like it didn't really have the same kind of profound like sense. Like there's one where it's two guys in a nightclub, and it's just a one-page excerpt, and they're just exchanging text messages to each other, talking about how one proposed to the other.
Right.
And then it ends with the phone on the ground, blood on the ground, and like the final text was not sent. And I was like, that really tore me up. And then there were things that were like a doodle that was about basically... it was like two aliens that constantly switched their sexual identities, and I was like, okay, that's fine, but it's not really hitting home with what the core problem with all this is. It's the fact that, you have to look at us as humans. Much like any civil rights issue, you have to perceive the other as a human. And so there were a few, like I said, those were very few and far between.
Right.
And they weren't very, big things. Like, I was very impressed with the Batman one. Well, Batman one? One of the Batman ones, which was him in the nightclub looking at all these, rambling off the facts.
What Aladrius is talking about is the one I would probably consider one of my favorites, in that, as a Batman fan, one of the biggest things they tell you in DC is he is the great detective. He is the guy who figures... Except for Detective Chip. Detective Chip. I'm never going to live that down with my group of friends here. But anyway. And what he's talking about is Batman is examining the crime scene while the police are out, and you just... It's powerful for a couple of reasons. One, there are still cell phones lighting up and ringing, with which you would assume are family members checking on these people that will never make it home.
Yeah.
And then Batman, like Aladrius said, as far as that goes, he is literally reciting actual facts. Like, as far as the research, I looked into it for a little bit. Those are actual facts about the shooter and the incident. And I thought it was pretty profound that he lists all this off, and then it cuts out to the police officers guarding the crime scene, and one of them says, well, if anyone can figure this out, Batman can. And all you see is Batman on the roof crying because there was no reason for this. This shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, because he couldn't find the reason that something like that would happen. It's like looking at another member of the Bat family, because there are so many. Batwoman.
The Bat family, low.
Because I believe Batwoman is like the only gay the only gay member out of the Bat family. Right?
Yes, I believe so. As far as I remember, she's the only one who has any sort of homosexual leanings.
And I should preface my knowledge on comic books with basically current content. Okay, I don't go very far back, hence the reason I'm the guest, and I'm listening to the Cripple, because the Cripple knows way more about this stuff than I do. And Batwoman was relatively new to me. I didn't know who she was until recently, when you showed me her rebirth. Yeah. And there's that scene where she's sitting on the roof of a nearby building. I don't think it's the actual nightclub.
No, I don't believe so. I want to say you can see the nightclub in the background.
Scene, yeah. And this girl is crying, and she walks up there and she starts consoling the girl, talking about how she comes up to this rooftop whenever she's scared or afraid. And the girl's like, well, you wear capes and masks and you're superheroes. How can you ever be afraid? And she was like, there are plenty of times I'm afraid. We're not true superheroes. The true superheroes are people like your mom, who died in the club. And that she died for what she believed in. She died loving someone that society dictated was wrong for some dumb reason. But,
Right.
And those moments got to me. because it's like it goes back to the whole, okay, we're heroes, but so long as we've got the mask on. It's not hard for us to do our job because we've got superpowers and we've got a mask.
Right.
You don't. I mean, you don't have any... It takes a lot of courage to walk out there and be a minority, to be disabled, to be anything, to be a woman walking the streets at night dressed in what anyone would consider skimpy attire. And
that on that subject, that is varying depending on the individual's opinion too, which is the sad thing. It's not like there's a standard dress code as far as women or men go that someone can't just say, well, obviously they were asking for it. It's one of those things. It's good to see a medium that I love so much addressing some of these problems,
taking a step forward.
It really is, because I the older I got, and I assume my friends here would agree with me, the older we got, the more the simple, this guy saved the day from the random death ray just wasn't enough. These are characters I love, but I want to see them address things that we don't have to address. I want to see Jon Stewart walk into a meeting of superheroes and go, it's looking awful light in here. Like, can we just discuss that for a second?
It's one of the reasons, going all back, because, again, comic books, current content. Superheroes, however, I grew up with. Mm-hmm. And watching the old Spider-Man cartoons, where he had to juggle his job with being a superhero.
And a student.
Yeah.
You talk about the one from the 90s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, student too.
With Peter Parker. But, I mean... those are the kind of superheroes I enjoy. It's why the question becomes, when you look at Batwoman, you go, okay, well, what's her past been? She hasn't always been Batwoman. She was a kid at one point. She was a teenager at one point. She still goes through things currently. Right. Even though the big three, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, their backstories vary and get kind of stagnant, they go through things. And it's interesting to see how each of them would deal with a tragedy that they can't stop, they're too late to.
Right.
I mean, it's why you have a hard time putting heroes in World War II, putting heroes in World War I, putting heroes in 9/11, putting heroes in Columbine, putting heroes anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I know now, like I said, I'm not going to go into the specifics. I can't remember which company did it, but if I remember my comic history, one of the companies had their big flagship hero in World War II show up, go over, punch Hitler.
No, I think that was either Captain America or Superman.
Exactly. It was one of those two, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the big two companies.
And it pissed everyone.
Everyone was like, all of our men and sons are over there fighting, and you just sent this hero over to do what all these people are dying for. How does that feel? And I feel like this was a better approach to that. I want to go ahead and give Marvel credit for the not playing favorites. The 9/11 tribute comic was another similar to this that was really good. It was, we couldn't make it. You guys are the heroes, the firemen and the policemen who were up there working.
Which is odd, because all of the Marvel comic book heroes are like stationed in New York.
Well, exactly.
That's really strange.
Well, and that was a conversation I've had with several nerds about going. It was really tough for them. That was one of the things. Not only was it a tough issue, but it was tough trying to figure out, how do you make this reliable? Because those 20 some odd blocks in New York should be the safest strip in Marvel Universe ever. Like, I mean, just ever. Because
actually, all the stuff in Marvel happens in New York. And I'm kind of hoping that Love Is Love puts that issue forefront. Right. I would like to see more gay characters having their solo edition. I mean, Justice League of America, from what you showed me and what I've read, it's not bad. I just wish that we had someone who was more well known than the Ray, like, have their own series, have their own headline comic where they're alone. It's like, can you name? I can't, off the top of my head, I can't name one black person that's got their personal comic book in DC.
Headline. Let me think on that for a second. I know that Jon Stewart is head of the Green Lantern Corps, but that does not mean
But we're mostly focusing on Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz
in Green Lanterns. In Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns. That's like,
I see. It's got a okay. Never mind.
Yeah,
anyway, we're not getting.
But he's the head of the Green Lantern Corps. Yeah. By the way, none of us are fans of Hal Jordan. Let's preface that now. If you're a Hal Jordan fan,
not my Green Lantern. My Green Lantern will and always will be Jon Stewart. Jessica Cruz.
That is the echoes of time and space approving of what Aladrius just said.
Jessica Cruz is becoming my second. Like, real close, becoming my second.
Kyle popped up. By
Rayner.
the way, I just saw. I'm talking about Kyle Rayner, the White Lantern, who is a bisexual. Yeah, he's.
Well, I don't know if he is in current continuity. He was way back when.
In old continuity, Kyle had a boyfriend and dated Carol Ferris in different points in timeline. I'm hoping. Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, he got held. Yeah, and then they broke up, and Kyle got his sloppy seconds. I don't know what to tell you. I feel bad about Kat because Kyle's
basically,
awesome.
They didn't know what to do with Kyle Rayner's character, and they wanted to bring Hal Jordan back, but that different episode, but different content.
But yeah, we were talking about
diversity in comics.
Diversity in comics.
Is Captain America still old?
He is evil now.
He's head of Hydra.
He is head of Hydra.
So, but the other Captain Falcon was captain.
Oh no!
We're talking about DC. We're talking about DC.
But yes,
comics.
I put DC and it shows me fucking Falcon.
Although Falcon, yes,
Falcon is Marvel.
Falcon is one of the 3 people under the Captain America moniker at this moment. Yes.
Again, I don't know much about comics, but I know a little bit.
I'm a big fan of, while we're on that subject, what Marvel's doing with Sam Wilson, because we have seen Sam Wilson hang in there with Cap, and to give him a title.
But, shout out to Marvel, where are my gay characters? I feel like both in the comic universe, they exist a little bit, but again, they're part of teams. There's no headliner, and second of all, in the movie universe, which we'll get on a different time, there's no gay people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ever. Even by standards.
Well, we just got a drop of black paint on that canvas. Like, just.
No, we've had 3. We've had 3? Falcon. 3? We've had the, what's his face?
Who am I missing?
No, Iron Man. Don't make me miss.
Oh, Rhodey. You're talking about Rhodey.
What's his name? What's his hero name?
War Machine.
I keep calling him Iron Patriot. It's wrong.
It's right.
Okay.
It's right.
But War Machine is the better name, because Iron Patriot was the name that
Iron Man.
Osborn took.
No, Iron Man. You can't go much wrong than Iron Man.
Why do you hate Tony?
I don't like. He's a horrible person. But anyway, off topic. I have a lot of opinions.
Which is one of the reasons this podcast exists.
They want to know, is Vixen, Firestorm...
Vixen used to have her own title.
Vixen is in the
Cyborg?
Justice League of America.
Cyborg. There we go. That's the only one. He's right. Cyborg
Does
has his
he
own
count
title.
anymore?
Yes.
He is no. They have changed his artwork to where he looks like he's complete robot, and there's no.
Also, to all you Cyborg fans, I have not read anything past Cyborg Rebirth.
I'll grant you, I loved Teen Titans when I was a kid. The cartoon, I loved it with Cyborg, but
let me go ahead.
I grant you.
The Master of Time and Space pauses to the fact that you were a child when Teen Titans came out.
I mean,
He
middle
was a child in
school,
Teen
you know.
And we were in high school, home slice.
I know.
Middle school.
Anyway,
They's old.
You young bastard.
yes, Aladrius is an infant compared to us.
Oh yeah, okay. I can also walk compared to you.
Oh,
We might want to cut that.
we might want to. I don't care.
We'll cut that. We'll talk about Wakanda being.
It is. It really
We actually don't have to cut that. It doesn't bother me. As long as for anyone's edification,
I'll probably keep it all.
We've been friends for years, and now let me go ahead and get into that since Aladrius brought it up. That is why my moniker is Cripple, because I used it starting in high school to get people to get over the fact that I was disabled and stop treating me like glass. And it's worked, because the Master of Time and Space, for the first couple of months we knew each other, couldn't remember my actual name. Like, literally. I swear to you, there was an incident where he almost looked like a room full of people were going to just beat him. No.
Nah, let's not continue along.
All right. But yeah, so that's where that came from.
But like I said, I really
also,
would.
he may not, on the subject of Cyborg, I've only read the Rebirth issue, so Cyborg fans, I'm not up to date, but he may not be human.
See what I mean?
He may or may not be a program copying Vic Stone made by his father. Yeah,
it's like
I don't mean to bust your bubble.
It's like that old argument: keep all the good stuff the way it was, and then add a little bit of new stuff. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just obviously go back to what I think works. It's like I said, I hope that Love is Love and various other tribute comics come out. I'd love to see a few of I guess things like Ferguson and various other things that I'm obviously politically moved by.
Right.
Would be too much asking DC or Marvel to lean one way or another. I don't feel like that should be the case. But I would hope that more kind of social commentary comics come out, and they push the way we view superheroes.
I've only seen some coverage of this, and I haven't picked it up because I've only got so much money, surprise, to pick up certain comics. But from what I have found online, in the first issue that I've seen, Occupy Avengers did a very interesting thing where they...
But that's like Occupy Wall Street, right? Yeah.
What the industry thing where they took the oh god, I feel so bad because it outrages me, but I cannot remember the name of the town. The water. I'm so bad with the name of the town.
The water.
That they haven't had their water fixed for like 3 years. They're literally drinking better. Flint, Michigan. Thank you. Flint. They took the Flint, Michigan issue and the pipeline issue and combined them into something, and they did make commentary on that, which was what I'm hoping. Because like I said, I'm not a big Marvel fan, but I might end up picking up this title if that's what they're going to do, because it was about Hawkeye going around and righting wrong since he killed Bruce Banner.
Because he's a horrible.
I was not emotionally ready for that personally, because I'm a big Bruce Banner fan and I'm not a Hawkeye fan, so that was just like, but yeah. So, it seems to be along the lines of what we're hoping for, but I totally get what you're saying as far as.
Well, like I said, I feel like the only way for comic books to really push their fans to like, it's kind of like when we play video games, and they have a social commentary aspect. It really, for most people, it makes you think. For some people, Call of Duty is enough. I like the fact that Love is Love. I like the fact that the 9/11 came out. I like the fact that all these different social commentary comic books continue to push what we know as a person. And comic book people, I mean, they're changing slowly. They're changing, but I feel like to keep pushing them to view other people that they might not be exposed to as human really pushes us forward in a way that we can see more superheroes. Like the ones that you introduced me to, who no one is probably going to know, Midnighter and Apollo, which make an adorable couple. Wiccan and Hulkling, a personal favorite of mine from Marvel, which we'll see what happens.
Actually, you got me reading Young Avengers because of that, and I'm in the middle of the second volume, and that is some good stuff. That is, but not just them. The entirety of the team is some interesting commentary on that generation in general.
So I'm kind of hoping that Love is Love and like comics are just the first of their kind.
Well, I gotta say, I know one of the big things that a lot of comic fans are worried about, and I'm hoping that if they pick up on this, that if they're right and that's what the companies are worrying about, I'm hoping that somebody up in the big companies hears this just by happenstance, hears this and says that the fans are waiting. What you're worried about is not a thing. And what I mean by that is I hear a lot of comic fans saying that adding this diversity, adding this inclusivity is a great thing, but in the interim it's going to damage, the money loss from all the people who are made uncomfortable for whatever reason by these topics is going to cripple the companies. What I'm here to tell you guys is, even if that very odd interpretation of finance is true, and like I said, I really hope that all of the comic companies can hear this, the amount of audience you will gain from people like Aladrius here who have been alienated from comic books for so long only because they love the idea, but they just can't see themselves in these characters. The amount of readership you will gain, and to be honest, there are a lot of old school comic fans like myself, and several I've seen online, who would be refreshed by the fact that this is not the 70s. It's not
the 50s.
The 50s. It's not pretty quarterback-looking guy hooks up with cheerleader end of issue. Because even, like I said, not even the disability end of it, just as an average person, when two super poster child pretty people hook up and have pretty people lives, it's not good writing. It's just not.
It really turns you off of the idea that you the constant motto you hear from DC and Marvel is, in a way, anyone can be a hero. Anyone can step up and be a hero. It's really hard to get that point across when everyone has to look a certain way, when everyone has to have so much money. I mean, Think about Superman. He was a journalist, a journalist, and he owned like his own fucking penthouse apartment with Lois Lane, and she was also a journalist.
Superman the animated series is the reference Aladrius is currently making, and yes, he had a penthouse apartment, full glassed around. It was. Crazy.
It was one of the first things that drew me to Peter Parker, and then as I got older and I continued to look at Peter Parker and like Marvel superheroes, I also began to notice that for you to get the girl, you had to get the girl. You had to rescue the damsel in distress. It was never a guy. The gay guy never got anyone. The gay guy was never mentioned. The gay guy was never shown. That was something we didn't talk about. Or you had all of the people that Peter Parker was supposed to save, which turned in New York City to be the black and brown people. They were the people that needed to be saved, not the ones who did the rescuing. So it just became something that I would look at me, I would look at my family, and I'd look at my friends, and none of us, even some of the white ones, would never be reflected because none of us got with the high school cheerleaders. And by the way, I don't know where Marvel got the idea for what their science class assistants look like. They never look like that. Never. I've never had anyone, a female, in the scientific department that's had glasses, red lipstick, long blonde hair, slim
low-cut
waist.
shirt around chemicals. You know?
If that were true, people like Peter Parker would not have gotten any work done.
None.
So I'm just
the Marvel Universe would not have nearly as much super science as it currently does. I definitely agree with that sentiment, and
so I like the moving forward that this shows. I like the fact that DC in particular in the last couple of years has gotten some kudos from me because they've been moving forward. I feel like it's not enough quite yet, but they're making steps forward, and I have to give credit where it's due. Marvel, we'll see. Marvel's it's sticking with its old characters. It did what it did with its reboot. We'll see.
Well, one of the things that kind of throws me off of all new, all different, because they've got some good ideas, is, and I totally want change, but I don't think it was so much change as we're going to grab every single idea that everyone has said they ever wanted ever, we're going to throw it in a bucket, we're going to mix it with what we got, we're going to throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And when you don't feel that kind of commitment behind, there are individual lines I feel that kind of commitment behind. I read a little bit, and I intend to read more now, of the Jane Foster Thor. That line seems
that is really good. She's a really good Thor. And not to piss off any of the dude bros out there, but
the Odinson fans.
Odinson is still around. Calm your tits. But
yeah, he's coming.
They're about to reveal what they did not reveal.
But I love Jane Foster Thor. I love the fact that she's dealing with cancer. Like, she has an actual issue that she's dealing with, and she has to sacrifice herself to fill some guy who wasn't worthy's shoes. I mean, because what's she gonna do? Leave the hammer on the ground and walk away? No, she's known what people have to do to protect other people. I love the new Spider-Man.
You talk about Miles Morales. From some commentators I've seen, I like him as a character. From what I hear, his current issue is not.
It's the writer. Yeah. The writer they don't know what to do with him, and I feel like that's really sad because he's such an interesting character.
Well, I feel like the one thing and I love Miles Morales. I'm glad that when Secret Wars happened, that they pulled him into the main Marvel timeline. But what kills me about it is they pulled him in. And one of the things people like about him is he brought back that down-to-earth feel of Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Well, now Parker Industries is going down, and Peter Parker started to be down-to-earth. And so now we've got this problem where the guy that showed this aspect of Peter Parker is now with Peter Parker, and everybody's like, what do we do? And I'm just like, well, I can't help you because you're evening the scale here. And again, this is just all our opinions on the matter, and there are other people. And it may just be, another reason Aladrius is here is to call me out for being a fanboy. It may just be that I'm a Bruce Banner fanboy. But then there are characters like Amadeus Cho, which to me aren't well written. I don't like
No, by the way, in defense of Marvel, Chinese Superman.
I can't even. I can't even. They're run by the government. I can't defend that. It made me cry. So many depressing tears.
The new Iron Man, Iron Woman.
Riri.
Yeah. I haven't read anything. I want to, because the more I hear, the more she might not. I mean, it might be another Miles Morales issue where I just don't like the writer behind it, but I have a feeling I'm gonna like the character.
Well, let me put it this way: from the little bit I've done, which is like the origin stuff and some team stuff, Riri is a good character. I think the biggest thing was they just threw her in so fast. Like Sam Wilson, we had watched the Falcon grow. So if you've been reading Captain America over the past several years, we understood that one day Sam Wilson was going to take that shield.
Let's be honest, he was more Captain American than Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers was Captain America from the 1940s.
Right. He is a modern day Captain America. I completely agree.
I mean, he uses Twitter. Steve Rogers doesn't know what the internet is.
I just think it's funny that a guy with a bird costume has to send out a tweet. I feel like...
Yeah. But I mean, also, not to mention, it's...
Red Wing is the drone from the movies. Is it in the comics too?
Yeah,
Red Wing is in the comics?
In the original comics, he actually had a pet falcon.
Oh, okay. That's where that came from.
Robot Chicken. I saw that on Robot Chicken.
I don't know if they have it in the current continuity, if it's actual still bird or a drone, but Red Wing was a thing.
Because most of the stuff I read about him being the Falcon, he didn't have one. But that doesn't mean...
I didn't see him with one, but we'll have to... I mean, I'll have to go back.
Although that was a great add-on to the movies.
I do know that it's really cool that Captain America now flies around and can actually get from place to place without having to be airlifted. I just think
by his rich frenemy boyfriend.
Oh God!
Yes, the internet has married Steve Rogers and Tony Stark.
It's the shipping machine.
There's also a ship of Batman.
Oh, totally.
I have seen that. Yeah,
they're actually not badly drawn. Like, I actually kind of feel for it. I support it.
Especially since Batman and Superman being shipped is not weird to me. The fact that Superman is 9 times out of 10 the bottom, that is weird to me. I would have assumed that the man with super strength could hold a millionaire down and just...
I feel like that's more for safety purposes.
No, I also feel like that's a bit of Bruce Wayne's paranoia coming out, because he's not letting anyone inside him.
Well, you're the one who's told me, as a gay American, that's true trust, being able to let someone do that.
Yes.
Bruce doesn't trust. What's trust? I have a whole lot of money. I don't know what trust is. Hang on. No, Mr. Benjamin ain't telling me what trust
What about Alfred? You don't trust Alfred?
I mean, I like as much as you can trust a parent. He's the only one. Look, let me just put it this way.
Speaking of Superman and Batman, look at Nightwing and Batman.
Oh, that's everywhere. There are tattoos. People have that tattooed on themselves. That's all. God. By the way, apparently it is an unofficial internet thing, and there are a lot of unofficial internet things. That will be my quote for. I've read it in a couple of places as an unofficial internet thing that Nightwing has the best ass in comics.
Oh my God.
Go ahead and talk, man.
Are we going for an hour time and space guy, or what are we shooting for? Because we're on 32 on the count. So all right, cool.
You said you want to do an hour, so I'm doing an hour.
Let's make sure, just making sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, unofficially, Nightwing has the best ass in comics.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, you're the one who was telling me how confused you were by the fact that comics up until recently.
Yeah, they're anti-gay and then are anti-LGBT. We'll just go with the whole thing because, let's face it, when's the last time you've seen a trans person be a superhero? Just saying. And then, they don't want you to look at the men that way, but they're constantly drawing them into positions in which they're hiked over football style and they've got the camera right underneath their ass. And I'm just like... Mm-hmm. And their underwear is on... Well, up until recently, their underwear was on the outside of the super costume.
I have the issue where they explain that. You should read it. There's an issue where... No, you love this because you're a fan of this character. Jonathan Kent, the son of Superman, literally goes, why? He was looking at the thing, and he goes, why were your underwear on the outside? And it was pretty hilarious.
It's because they just got out the washer, and I wanted them to dry.
Also, you want to talk about bringing comics in a new direction. As a fan of the pre-Crisis Superman, I liked that they were able to bring in his vulnerability.
Wait. Pre-Crisis. What's that?
Or post-Crisis. Sorry.
Post-Crisis. That's the one that we're currently on?
Okay.
Or what?
Okay.
Again, New 52.
For the newbies.
Rebirth.
All right. For the newbies, I said pre-Crisis. That was the next. This is post-Crisis. There was an event, DC's first big reboot, called Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the entire multiverse was destroyed, and the Master of Time and Space is sighing right now because we had to sacrifice Barry Allen to the altar to rebirth the multiverse. You're the only one who cried. None of us cared. Flash who? Hashtag Wally West rules. Anyway, but from then on, the post-crisis was what most of these people referred to. Well, when New 52 happened, the post-crisis universe, the ones we all grew up with in the comic cartoons for the non-hardcore comic book fans who are listening to this, you know, your Justice Leagues and your all those are your post-crisis heroes. They were all destroyed when Flashpoint happened and New 52 was established. Well, nobody liked New 52 Superman.
Amen.
Myself included. I mean, I didn't hate him because he gets a lot of hate, but he was just dull. I don't.
Are we talking about Superman?
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that he was not just generically a good person. I get it that he suffers. I get it that he has issues. But again, it's the fact that no matter what, he's always, at the end of the day, he's going to lace up them shoes and he's going to go help somebody that's being crushed by a car. He doesn't have to think about it. Right. He doesn't have to get morally confused. He knows what he has to do. He just might be suffering emotionally while doing it.
So you're basically saying, and if this is what you're saying, I completely agree with you, that the DC universe had enough moral ambiguity to give their light and hope moral ambiguity.
It's such a dark universe. It really is. It's really gritty. And sometimes that works. Right. I mean, Batman is the poster child for dark and gritty.
Batman rules.
I mean, and you know, but it's just, after a while, when all of your characters act like that, it gets to the point where, okay, having someone that maybe has some issues at home, but is overall a shining light, is a good thing. It's a breath of fresh air. It's what separates the big three.
Right.
I mean, Superman is more, happy, optimistic, whereas Batman is more pessimistic, and Wonder Woman is a woman. So, I mean, I feel bad, but like, I honestly,
feel like my wife's feminist tinglers are twitching.
I much more preferred Hawkwoman from the Justice League, even though now I keep hearing or seeing, I guess, that she's being replaced by Hawkman, which kind of hurts. Well, and yes, I know it's Hawk Girl, but I call her Hawkwoman because referring to a grown
woman in Young Justice. I want to say Young Justice called her woman. Actually,
I believe Justice League, what I grew up with, the cartoon on Cartoon Network, called her Girl.
Yeah, they.
I am young. I am young.
Yes.
You was old.
And the running thing is the Master in Time and Space and I are barely apart, maybe a year, like less, I think, not even. And this guy is a few years younger, Mr. Aladrius here, and so everything he experienced as a young lad were stuff we were experiencing at high school and post-high school age. So
except for the chasing guys thing, that was just me. I was the only one that experienced that.
Yeah, he was definitely the only one that experienced that. I don't chase much, hence the name of the podcast. By the way, our Master of Time and Space does not have a microphone, but he's laughing too. Before you believe we're all bad people, he's also a bad person. But I don't know. I haven't even heard anything from her since Brightest Day. Brightest Day was the last I'd heard from her. I know I was looking on the DC release schedule, and there was an issue called Death of Hawkman. I don't know what it was about, other than obviously.
Does he wind up in a freezer?
Well, I don't know.
And she gets to be the one who.
What? Which
it's
Green
why when I
Lantern
heard
girlfriend was that? Let me bring that up since you brought that up. There's a term.
We're still on the subject of like diversity in comic books, and this is something that actually happened for a time period in DC.
It only happened to one person, but it became known as fridging. And for those of you who are not in the know, like Aladrius here, fridging is.
I've heard the term before.
I just hope it means the same thing in your world that it did to me.
No, it's the same. Don't try to turn that into some kind of gay thing. Okay. We don't fridge each other.
Anyway, fridging is a term that came up to represent but not only females, but actually effeminate gay men, because there were some masculine gay men. It is the whole thing that have popped up here and there, but it is a term to promote the effeminate gay man and the females in comic books who are dead, dying, and generally in peril, specifically to give the hero development. It got its title from one of Hal Jordan's girlfriends being, I believe it's Hal Jordan. It was Kyle, thank you, Master of Time and Space. That's why you're here. Kyle Rayner's, a Green Lantern's girlfriend, being chopped up and put in his fridge. Quite literally.
It's I equate it to killing the partner of the hero to give the hero more validity as a hero. It's kind of like when we watched the shows, or the little snippets of Scott.
You're talking about the New 52 Earth 2.
Yeah, Alan Scott, and
Alan
he
Scott,
had he was gay, and he had a boyfriend, and they killed his boyfriend not once but twice to give him his kind of validity as a superhero and why he should be one. And they do that a lot with not just gay people. I mean, it's a common trope with gay people, but they also do it with women. And I think that's those are the big communities that are hit by that.
Occasionally children, but people get real touchy when kids die, so it's only happened a couple times. People get real touchy.
Because I know... Actually, no, I don't. I don't know much about John Constantine. I was about to say that I thought his daughter was kidnapped, but I don't actually know if that was his daughter.
As far as I know, this is, again, I'm not a super comic genius. I know a good bit more than either of the individuals in the room, but I'm not gonna say I'm like the expert. The only time I remember Constantine having a child for any canonical time period was specifically in the Injustice canon, which was his daughter Rose, whom he screwed over the entire DC universe to protect.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, Aladrius, there's the only instance of children dying. I want to say, didn't Alan Scott, the original Alan Scott's kids, one of them died?
He had two, as far as I know, because I did some research on it. And,
right.
Again, it's funny to me that people got outraged that he turned out to be gay in the new Earth 2, which did not go for very long.
Sadly.
He wasn't gay in that one. He was straight, and he had two kids. And one was gay, named, I think his daughter's name was Jade, and his son's name was Obsidian. And Obsidian was gay.
And Obsidian, they've made a recent reference to in the Legends of Tomorrow series, Season 2. Now, I'll tell you what, guys, I don't have the time to look it up at the moment, but I will get back with you, the Master of Time and Space, and my co-host here will remind me the next episode to give you the actual episode number. But Obsidian shows up when they meet the JSA, and then again in a time period in the future where he is older, and they ask Obsidian to join them on their time travel adventures and shenanigans. By the way, great show. And he mentions that no, he finally found someone he could be happy with, and his husband is waiting at him at home. Now, the episode was set in the 80s, so I don't believe the word husband was used, but it was implied that he was a lifetime partner.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. That was a curveball I hadn't actually expected. Good on the CW. They don't get too many kudos because they're decently progressive for a TV station.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing that they're going to get a big promotion from this show about, not that it currently matters, but a big promotion from us will be if The Ray becomes a live-action show, because it's everything I've read says it's coming, and it would be great to see.
That's what I'm hoping for.
As far as I know, Hawkgirl hasn't even showed up in the
Rebirth.
Rebirth.
See, that's what I'm aware of.
Hawkman has just showed up.
Yeah.
But there's nothing with Hawkgirl.
Yeah, Hawkman has just shown up from what I can see.
For some reason, they replaced her with him, and I don't like it on two things. One, I liked her a lot more, and two, his mask.
Yeah, the beak mask really bothers Aladrius. It is a big issue.
It's not a hawk. It's a pelican. It's a pelican. He's Pelican Man. No?
No, hers doesn't hook. If you go back and look, his hooks.
Hers doesn't. Look at her from Justice League.
No, I'm not looking Justice League.
Wait.
Oh, man. Shit I don't know about.
But he's right. In the cartoon, he was talking about his hooks slightly.
I don't know much about comic books, so when I have somebody sit next to me Googling shit, I can just instantly be proven or disproven. But no, I mean, and it's not like, okay, it's not like I use my gay status to argue for the rights of just gay people.
Right.
I would love lesbians, gays, transgenders, bisexuals. I'd love to see an actual crippled hero who doesn't regain the use of their crippled faculties when they gain powers.
Yes.
I would love a legitimate black superhero. And I'm not talking about one who, again, it's the same thing I call from normal white superheroes. I don't like it. There's occasionally a Bruce Wayne. I get that. There's occasionally an Oliver Queen. I get that. Just like on the black side, there's occasionally a T'Challa. I get that. But I'd love to see Static Shock, who grew up in a home with a single father, and he was a police officer, and he had to literally do, the right thing. His dad was teaching him how to do the right thing, and he had to put powers to use when he got them.
By the way, Netflix and creator of the Young Justice series, if you're listening, we would like more Static Shock in Season 3. That's more Static Shock in Season 3. Thank you.
I really would. He was one of my favorites.
All three people in this room are big Static Shock fans, especially from the animated series in the late 90s. It was really good. And now we've broken the Master of Time and Space because he's singing the whole song.
It makes me sad because they have the God, I haven't read the comic book. Mm-hmm. They have the new Flash from Wally West. The
new 52 Wally West? Yeah.
And I would have loved... And they also have Static there, but it's like he's just now discovering his powers, and he's a tech guy. He's in the background. He's not even... He sits in the dungeon.
I actually haven't seen Static in Rebirth. I
saw him. They kind of mentioned him in one of the videos that we were watching, and he was just kind of there.
If you can figure out which one that was, let me know, because I want to find that issue.
Because I could have swore I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was there, and he just didn't have powers. Like he was their tech guy. And it's like later issues. I keep hearing that the same character I'm thinking about is discovering similar powers to Static Shock, and I don't know if it's the same character. Yeah. But it kind of annoys me that they chose the one character that they chose to replace, because they now have two Wally Wests? I mean,
yes, there is.
So why would you do a copy if you're just going to have?
Yeah. The redheaded Wally West for We Grew Up with Justice League is in DC Rebirth. He's the reason that we all know that stuff's going wrong, whatever the big plot is.
See what I mean? Why have a copy if you could just have Static Shock there? Static Shock seems so much better than the copy.
Because you need a speedster to say this shit is wrong because we fucked it up.
But we have speedsters. We have two.
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying that we should keep the redheaded Wally West and the African American one.
If they were gonna...
Static could have filled the role in the Teen Titans, I think, is what the reference he's going for.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I won't say that I'm not happy that Wally West has some color, because really, in the long line of things, if the story is good, if their backstory is nice, I don't care what the color or sexual orientation of the character is, or the gender. I don't really care. I'd like to see some diversity, and I still feel like Static Shock is a stronger character than a doppelganger, essentially, to a character they just decided to reintroduce into Rebirth. That's all I'm saying. Because Barry is Barry.
Both Wally West and Barry.
Yeah, Barry Allen is still there.
In Teen Titans?
No.
In Teen Titans, there's one. I thought you meant in general.
Okay, I thought you meant there was two Titans. I thought Wally
No. Wally, this is where shit gets a little confusing. In DC, you're my bros, but this is one of the things that the Cripple's going to point out. This is where shit gets confusing for non-hardcore comic fans like Aladrius. Wally West is on the Titans, which is built up of classic Teen Titans people, including Nightwing, Red Arrow. Yeah, there's Titans and there's Teen Titans. Because
oh my god, it's like Marvel in their Avengers, New Avengers, Young Avengers, Old Avengers, the different Avengers, whatever they decide to put in front of Avengers at the time.
Dark Avengers.
All I gotta say, as an X-Men fan, there were as you were an X-Men fan, there were at least like 7 different titles under the name X-Men.
There are way more than that. Yeah. But X-Men was actually the first. Again, speaking about diversity, X-Men was the first show, like as a kid, a hero show that I actually got into. Before Peter Parker, before any of that, I actually got into X-Men because the first episode talked about a young girl, Jubilee, and she didn't know her powers. She didn't know what she was. She just knew that she was frustrated with an arcade machine, and it exploded. She ran away from enemies and was rescued by the X-Men, and then she got to talk to Storm. By the way, that was the first time I had ever seen a black superhero, believe it or not. Yeah,
Storm was one of the first.
And she was the first time that the black superhero didn't actually spoke eloquently within a cartoon in general.
Actually, she had some of the best speech patterns of any character on that show, actually.
And it's...
She threw this whole thing just to summon weather.
Yeah.
The thunders of lightning come to my hand!
Oh, she did whole soliloquies. It's like...
And she...
Also, the line you're thinking of is, you know how much that cost? Yeah, $0.25.
Oh my God.
Yes, that was the line. Don't forget the sipping of the empty drink. I feel like that's...
That's how you know you're 90s, when you sip from an empty drink. But
well,
I grew up in that
it's
time period.
interesting. Okay, we are coming up with a little bit, but I do want to back up on that point of the Young X-Men real quick before we summarize. It's interesting that you bring that up because Magneto, while this not being the first cartoon I get into, Magneto was the first character that actually told me that it was okay to be upset with the establishment. While he was technically the villain, it was okay to be upset with the establishment for mistreating you, and you weren't evil. Because later on, they would introduce several villains that were legitimately evil. Magneto wasn't evil.
Actually, unfortunately, they did change his character a couple times. Like, they went from making him a villain to making him an anti-hero to making him a hero, and now they just recently made him a mustache-twisting villain now.
Sad face.
Yeah.
Because in the 90s, he was more of the understandable villain. Like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have flipped the table, but a table flip is sometimes needed. And that's what I liked about the 90s cartoon Magneto.
It's why I find it that we need more of this diversity. Because it does bring in young children who... And like I said, I don't really like going to movie theaters and watching hero movies because I know what I'm in for.
Right.
I know that the nice-looking dude who is straight will rescue a woman who is also equally nice-looking. And I won't get any, like, it'll just prove, and if I do have kids, I question whether or not I take them to go see superhero movies.
Right.
Because what if they turn out to be gay? I mean, if they're straight, that's great. It works for them. If they're gay, they'll grow up like I did. Gay kids don't get to be heroes. Gay kids don't get the guide. You don't get anything.
Well, even to be honest, as a straight man, your point of view is valid because even if your kids are straight, then is what my dad's doing wrong? Because that's not what these pillars of morality. That's not what these pillars of morality are doing. You know, it's just one of those things. But that's the reason we bring these up and we have these talks is to discuss things like this. And for those of you listening, if you were on the fence or you thought this was too preachy, hey, that's your business. But it's our joy and our job here to bring these things to the forefront and to let you know a little bit more about the medium that we all love. So,
while disclosing a few personal facts about us, as people.
So that we don't just sound like some professors that popped into your living room to lecture you.
No, I'm not. There's a professor I know, and his name is Google. And he will solve all of your problems.
And on that note, I think we're going to call it an evening. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening to us. Now I'm going to leave you here with our Master of Time and Space and some final words.
This is your Master of Time and Space saying thank you for listening to the Cripple Talks Comics podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions for us, go ahead and send us an email at crippletalkscomics@gmail.com. That's crippletalkscomics@gmail.com. For more content, check out rebelsaga.com, where we cover conventions, video games, anime, and more. You can listen to this and all other archive podcasts at iTunes, Stitcher, and rebelsaga.com. That's iTunes, Stitcher, and rebelsaga.com. Thank you.